Okay.
Oh, wow, how are you?
There's probably, if you don't know about the MCU program, ask him to explain.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell them we're just waiting for it.
Wait, Tiffany, are you?
No, sorry, I made it. I didn't mean to do that. Hi,
You're mute,
detective.
you're on mute.
I'm muted now. Hey, detective, we're just waiting for a few more members to get here, if that's okay. Before we start.
And Tiffany,
We have 15.
just make sure you're doing attendance on the right tab.
You know what? That's what I was like, I was gonna ask you, why does it look so weird?
Yeah, no, go to the.
Oh,
the
boy,
the
that's
July
that is me
2020.
being dumb. Oh. My head is all over the place. honestly.
You're good.
I'm muted. The person that told me they weren't gonna be here was Kayla, so. Just waiting for a few more people. Remind me who the new secretary was. I should know since we voted. Is it Kim? Kim's the secretary, right? Or is she assistant?
No, Milan.
Oh, that's right, Milan.
Kim is the assistant.
Kim's the assistant.
Yeah.
I just. Oh, we have 2 more minutes. Please. Hey, I'll just wait another minute or two anyways, because we're just kind of trickling.
I just can't care for it.
Nice, nice.
Back.
Welcome back.
Alright.
That was my good. You're 8. And we got
Did you
detective
move
on
to
already. Yeah, she's
Oh,
there.
no,
Yeah, he's already.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Ken Rice. I used Arlotta's link to get on.
Okay, perfect.
Should we kick off then?
Yeah, I think we can. We were just waiting for a few people, but let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining. It's great to see some of our new members here. We're excited to spend some time later today talking about how we think about what the future of the committee looks like, how we're gonna do some organization, but for now, we'll call our monthly meeting, our June-July cycle meeting to order. We have 2 items on the agenda. One is gonna be a guest presentation, which we have Lieutenant here today on Zoom. Then after which we'll spend some time talking about the committee. So Lieutenant, if you'd like to kick us off.
Sure. Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Lieutenant Ken Rice from the 13th Precinct. I'm the Special Operations Lieutenant, so I oversee all specialized units in the precinct. You probably have heard, I think I've spoken to a few of you on the community board already. So the 13th Precinct was one of 5 precincts selected in the city to be a pilot precinct for the quality of life team, which was announced by the mayor and the police commissioner back in early April. So we kicked off the Q team pilot on April 14th. So we're about 2.5 months in. Um, this is really focusing on the issues that affect everyday New Yorkers' quality of life. Whether that's loud music or reckless driving, bicycles on sidewalks and e-bikes and mopeds, driving recklessly and almost hitting people, open air drug use. In the 13th precinct, we have a big condition with retail theft. So that's one of our quality of life conditions. So really all the stuff that really affects the residents and the people who work and live here, their everyday quality of life, whether they're walking to school or walking to their job or just, walking around the neighborhood, homeless encampments, all the stuff that, traditionally would have been, I guess, lower priority. But now we're taking a different kind of look at it to make it a higher priority in the eyes of the police department. So, everybody hears about, there's a lot of focus on crimes, and rightfully so. That's a big part of what the police department handles every day. But historically, the 311 calls for the stuff that would have been the lower quality of life offenses, non-criminal offenses that would have been kind of put on the back burner until there was some downtime. So a lot of times, if you had made a 311 call in the past, it could be several hours before somebody came to deal with it when they had some downtime with the 911 calls. Now this quality of life team is putting a renewed priority on the 311 calls. So we have 2 teams on our quality of life team pilot here in the 13th precinct. Each team is headed by a sergeant, and there's 9 police officers when fully staffed. We're down a few, but we're trying to work to fill in those spots. So we have a team on the day tour. They start at 10 a.m. and they work till 6:35 p.m. And then we have a night team that comes in at 6 p.m. and works till 2:35 a.m. We have 7-day-a-week coverage. Our AM team has Fridays and Saturdays off, and our PM team has Sunday, Mondays and off. The quality of life teams in the precinct, the 2 teams cover a good majority of the week in the 13th precinct. So their focus is response time to 311 calls. We want to drive that down. We want to, adequately address conditions that are getting 311 calls, identifying chronic complaints that we're getting, and seeing how we can work toward more long-term solutions. And this Q team replaced in our precinct the prior NCO program that I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, the neighborhood coordination officers. We no longer have neighborhood coordination officers in the 13th precinct. We're not doing the build-a-block meetings anymore that the NCOs had prior handled, but the Q team incorporated a lot of the officers who were prior NCOs, some of our youth coordination officers, some of our traffic officers, some of our public safety team officers. Were all taken from these units and combined into the quality of life team. So we really have a lot of good experience, a lot of good officers who are very eager to be out there, work in dressing conditions. And we think we've seen a lot of success. Another big difference with NCO is NCOs were assigned to a sector. So, a lot of times they would handle jobs in their sector. They had very good community contacts in their sector, but they were kind of more constrained to that sector. So with the Q team, we still have the officers patrolling, in our sector. We have 4 sectors in the 13th precinct, but they're not as constrained to just staying in that sector. So if there's an issue in a particular area that needs more than just the two officers from that sector, the whole Q team can go and address that issue. Um, Hopefully address it, that it's not just gonna reemerge the next day. Hopefully do long-term solutions for these issues and then move on. Once that issue is addressed, move on to another issue. So that's kind of what a broad overview of what we're doing. So like I said, we started the pilot program mid-April. We're about 2.5 months in, and now they're looking to roll it out. Manhattan South and Manhattan North are going to get rolled out mid-July. So the other precincts in Manhattan South are also going to be going to Q teams in just a few short weeks. But we were lucky in the 13th to kind of get the ball rolling and try to work this out.
Well,
Um,
Lieutenant, thanks so much for sharing. I think this is something that's top of mind for this committee as well as the full board, as well as our community at large. Primarily because I think some of the issues that come up year after year in our highest areas of need are around, crime prevention, quality of life, mental health, homelessness, and it seems like this task force and team that you're putting together will help in addressing that. So thank you for spearheading this effort. We'll open the floor to some questions and I would love to understand how we as a committee and board can help you and be a part of this program. But Yaron, go ahead with the first question.
Yeah, this is exciting. Thank you for sharing. So in the 2.5 months that this has been active, what have you, can you give us an overview of sort of what general you've seen? Like, are there particular, for your one issues that you're seeing far more than other issues? Like, what have you learned in the past couple of months that the board should know about it on this one?
I'm sorry, I had some technical difficulties. My phone was ringing. Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Sure. I'm just asking, in the 2.5 months that the program's been going on, have you learned anything about, are there particular issues that are more pervasive than other issues? Is there anything you could share with us about what you've learned so far about what's going on?
Sure. So one of the big issues that we see, especially with the 311 system, we get a lot of complaints about homeless encampments. Obviously, that's something that every precinct across the city is dealing with, a lot of homeless encampments around. And one of the big things that I get a lot of feedback from. We do a lot of community meetings, and people say, "Oh, I called 311 about this homeless encampment," and the officers show up and they don't do anything. And the homeless encampment stays there. So what I like to explain to people about that is we all the 311 calls, we do get them, we respond to them. With homeless encampments in particular, we have we can't just go and force somebody to leave and throw their stuff in the garbage. We have a protocol that we have to follow. So on our end, that does involve going to the location, seeing if it is an encampment or not, taking photos, and then we relay that to our chief of patrol's office and chief of department's office, who then works with other city agencies to schedule cleanups. So they have a whole system where they post notices that this location is going to be cleaned by sanitation on whatever date. They show up with sanitation, PD, homeless services, outreach workers, because we don't want to just we don't want to clean up one location and they move right across the street. We're trying to get people to accept services, so we want to do that. So that's one of the things that we see very often, but a lot of people are frustrated with that on the 311 because they think that we can just solve this issue right away. It is a kind of a prolonged issue with those. We have quality of life zones in the precinct. There's 3 zones. One is around the Strauss houses in the 13th precinct, like 28th, East 28th Street. One is 28th and Broadway. And then one is near Union Square Park. But we obviously have those zones were designated quality of life zones when we first started the pilot. We also have seen that we've been getting a lot of 311 calls about 14th Street and First Avenue. A lot of people loitering, people using drugs at that location. So we've been really working with the 9th precinct focusing a lot of attention on 14th Street and First Avenue. Then we noticed that, because we were focusing so much effort there, people were starting to move to 15th Street and First Avenue. There's a school there, so, a lot of, drug use is going on over there. So we've been, we noticed we've been having some success, but then obviously it just moves the problem somewhere else. So we're trying to figure out longer term solutions. And that's something that the quality of life, team has the ability to do because because they're not focused on patrol, just going from job to job to job. We can work with our other city agency partners to try to work toward more long-term solutions. So we've been doing a lot of joint efforts, not only just homeless cleanups, but we get a lot of complaints about loud music from bars and clubs. So we'll go out with DEP on certain joint efforts to take noise meter readings. We were having a lot of parking issues near some clubs on 20th and 21st Street. So we've gone out with traffic and we've done towing operations. So, I mean, I think that, especially as this pilot goes on and as the program expands, we're constantly learning, more what other city agencies, how they can help us. In our mission to improve quality of life. It's not just the PD. We're constantly learning on how we can improve and how we can reach out to other agencies to help us.
Then I have a follow-up on exactly
Sure.
something that you
Go ahead.
just mentioned. So thank you. I just want to quick follow-up. You mentioned 20th and 21st, which you 5th and 6th. That's an area that we've gotten a lot of feedback on as a board that, of noise and rowdiness related to the clubs that are on those two streets. We have our vice chair of our licensing committee here to speak to that. My question is, the two shifts that you mentioned, if I recall, you said the second one ends at around 2 or 2:30. It's our understanding that some of those issues are happening actually after that, like at 3 and 4 in the morning.
Yeah,
Is
so
there-
actually, let me, I
Yeah,
should have mentioned that. The PM team, they work from Tuesday to Saturdays. They do 6 PM to 2:35, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. On Fridays and Saturdays, because of the club issue, we have them do a little bit later start. So they start at 7:30 PM and they work till 4:05 in the morning.
Right,
So,
okay,
yeah,
that was my question.
yeah.
Great, thank you.
Fantastic. We have two on Zoom and then Kevin, you're on, I just can't read the names.
Oh, you're calling from members of the public, so we have Gail.
You want- Us to-
Oh,
answer?
Should we do us first?
Yes,
and then-
let's do
so-
it.
so
Let's
sorry,
do us
we'll
first.
just-
We have, sorry about that.
Kevin, what about?
I appreciate you explaining what the quality of life team does, and I really appreciate the example about homeless encampments. I suspect, I don't live in the 13th precinct, I'm in the Midtown North, but I suspect this is true across, the whole district, the community board district, I mean. I've seen these crews come in, and clean up the encampment. And I've seen the social service people come in and talk to the homeless, and it gets cleaned up for a day or two. Sometimes 3 days, if we're really lucky. And then it's just right back to business as usual. And I commend you for what you're trying to do, but at the risk of, sounding rude, I think that I'm not hearing that it's amounting to anything because it's just a cycle. Like if you're not getting people placed to get some services, and I know that's not the police department's job necessarily. I'm pretty clear about that. But if the city isn't doing that, then, I think you're just in a never ending cycle of reporting the same people for the same problem over and over again. And after I've reported it to you once or twice, I'm never going to call you again because I will find you to be useless. So I'm not looking for a response. I'm just looking for you to share that with your team because somehow that message has to get back to City Hall in some way or whoever is in charge of all this. I'm just learning about how all this works. But it's ridiculous and it's a huge disconnect from what Mayor Adams says is actually happening. Because the mayor will have you believe that the city officials are coming through and sweeping places and you know, we're getting people into service and you know, like, and I don't see evidence of that anywhere at all. So
Yeah, actually, I
I'll
can
stop
address
there.
that. And we have, you know, obviously eh, we deal with the same people a lot, and we share a lot of the same frustrations
I know you
that you have. What they have seen is, you know, it's not illegal to be homeless. So obviously we can't just like take people against their
Yeah, I
will
get
and
it.
force them. But what they have seen is, you know, it's not, it has to be consistent, and like repeated efforts. So, you know, we can offer services and it's not just coming from the police department because some people are more receptive to the service providers and Department of Homeless Services rather than a police officer. That's why we do these joint operations. And it might not be the first time. It might there are services offered. It might not be the fifth time. It might not be the 99th time. But on the 100th time it's offered, you know, that might be the time where they're finally ready to accept the services. It's a very slow moving process. I know it's frustrating on our end as well. We did have some success on 15th Street and First Avenue. We did a joint operation a few weeks ago. Somebody who had been homeless for 3 years did accept services. The other
Yeah.
about 2 weeks ago, we were out there. DHS was out there on their own. Actually, they were talking to two individuals when we happened to swing by, and they were working on getting them services. I think one guy had a dog with him, and it didn't work that. You know, it's the continued and repeated presence, and you know, hopefully people will finally be ready to take the services and get off the street. But yeah, we share your frustration.
Thank you so much.
Two follow-up questions. One is a follow-up to Euron. So you talked a little bit about how you track some of the complaints that come in
Absolutely.
at different times on different shifts of the Q teams. Is there any like approach you're taking to putting these reports into some kind of database or some way that you can track long-term complaint history so that we can see patterns across different areas of the city?
Yeah, I know that's something that headquarters is working on doing. And just like everything else in the police department, they're having QStat meetings. They had a first one at the end of June. But just like CompStat or Traffic Stat to track these quality of life issues, you know, they're working on building some sort of database, you know, and to try to coordinate everything. Um, but yeah, that's more of a headquarters based initiative for that stuff.
Okay, and then the second question is a little bit of a follow-up to Kevin. I know last year there was some type of legislation passed around involuntary removal of individuals on streets. Does
Yes.
your team at all interact with some of that legislation that was passed, or would that be separate from what the Q team does?
So yeah, I know what you're talking about, where we can, it kind of, it was aimed at giving us um, more ability to take people involuntarily. It was legislation that was passed last year. It wasn't, but it actually really didn't change the police department's, how we enforce this. We had already been taking the interpreting our authority under the mental hygiene law. That if somebody can't, it's not just a danger to themselves, but if they can't meet their basic living needs, if they show an inability to provide for themselves and, you know, make clear decisions that you know, somebody would make for their own health, then we can involuntarily commit them. So we already had that authority and we were already doing that. A lot of times, you know, it's kind of a high bar, and as it should be, for us to involuntarily take somebody into custody and take them for a psychiatric evaluation. It's not just that you know, they're mentally ill, because there's a lot of people who, you know, who are mentally ill who don't need to be involuntarily committed if they're, you know, on medication or they're not a danger to themselves or other, you know. So it is a high bar. But that, you know, if we come across somebody, you know, at one of these homeless encampments who is clearly not making good decisions where they're putting themselves at risk, then we can involuntarily take them in. Well, that involves is we call an ambulance for them. We would, you know, take them into custody, we'd transport them to the hospital, and then the hospital would do an evaluation. and they can, if they believe they can hold them, they can hold them up for 72 hours. A lot of times, they're released very quickly from the hospital as well. But yeah, that legislation, it kind of just codified how the police department had already been, handling homeless.
Understood, thank you. Any other questions? Oh, go ahead.
Um, last year, the Flatiron Black Association came to us and complained several times about 21st Street between Sixth and Seventh, and also on Sixth Avenue between 21st and 23rd Street. Is that part of your quality of life zones, or have that been addressed with the clubs on 21st Street and the bike delivery people on Sixth Avenue blocking the sidewalk?
You said Sixth Avenue and 23rd, is that what the street you said?
21st to 23rd, yeah.
Oh, 21st and 23rd. Yeah, so we have met with the Flatiron bid. That's not in the quality of life zone in particular, but we handle quality of life issues all across the precinct. So yeah, that would, if there's quality of life issues, 311 calls. We've been meeting with the bids. We've been encouraging them to call 311. A lot of them, the bid representatives have our numbers directly. They call us, and we'll go over there if there's an issue going on.
Have you been in contact with the neighborhood association?
We've
Different
been,
than the bid.
yeah, we met with several block associations. We met with the block association for 20th and 21st Street, dealing with the clubs over there. We dealt with we met with the 28th Street block association, dealing with we're having a lot of e-bike issues in front of a restaurant over there on 28th between 3rd and Lexington. We did some joint operations with Department of Health, the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection over there, kind of cleaned up the e-bike issue on 28th Street. So yeah, we'll meet with anybody who wants to meet with us. We will meet with them. And we're happy to hear, the issues we want, like I said, the officers are all very eager. It actually is very rewarding because, when we're out there and we hear about these issues, we go out and we're as a team, and a lot of times, people ask us what we're doing. We explain to them about the pilot, and people are thanking us. They're happy that we're addressing these issues that historically would have been, kind of, on the back burner. And now we're kind of putting them on the front burner. So it is rewarding to hear people say thank you. We've been, dealing with this issue forever, and now we're actually seeing something done about it.
Any other, go ahead.
Thank you very much. So, as was mentioned, we, on another committee of which I'm the vice chair, we have a lot of concerns about the nightclub late night operators on 20th and 21st Street between 5th and 6th Avenue. And you mentioned that there are particular zones of interest for the Q team, which do not include that area. Am I correct? I mean,
Yeah,
you
they're not-
mentioned
They're not in the designated Q zone, but as we said, we do focus on that area because we have our PM team adjust their tour on Friday and Saturday just to deal with that issue. We're kind of trying to figure out the best way to deal with the problems on that street. We were closing the block for a while, which worked well with keeping the cars from parking there, and when the cars aren't parked there, people don't congregate. I think some people were happy with that, closing the block. And then we were also getting complaints that the block was closed from some other people. So we're trying to figure out like the best medium, a happy medium for everybody. We met with the block association over there. We're looking into the Cure program, about some particular clubs over there that we've been getting a lot of complaints about. So yeah,
Can
we
I
are
ask a
focusing on.
follow-on? How did you determine these? I think you mentioned like 3 or 4 zones that you were focusing on.
Yeah,
How did you determine which they are?
that was there was analysis done by headquarters, like on like historical 311 calls, kind of see where they were clustered, where we got a lot of quality of life complaints. And those were, designated zones that were picked out in the beginning of the pilot. But like I said, just because those are the quality of life zones doesn't mean that we're not addressing quality of life issues everywhere else. That's anywhere we get a 311 call, the quality of life team is, when they're in, they're addressing those calls.
And if I could ask one more question, will you still be holding build the block meetings, which the NCOs used to hold?
No, they are not doing the build a block meetings. But
Okay.
like I said, the quality of life team, we'll go out to any community meetings. Also, we have our precinct community council meetings at the precinct, the third Tuesday of every month. Actually, there's a break for the summer, but generally it's the third Tuesday of every month at the precinct, 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, if not, one last question, then we'll go to the members of the public. So there's the precinct community level monthly meetings that happen. Is there any other way that we can stay involved specifically with some of the outcomes that come out of the Q team pilot and then the expansion of the Q team to these other areas and other precincts? Whether it's like via quarterly updates or any other way that you've seen other organizations you're working with stay involved?
So yes, we're not doing the monthly meeting is obviously the best way that we get a lot of information out to the residents. We'll come out to any meetings, like I said. Trying to think of what other ways we can get out. Another thing that we've been focusing on, also with 311 calls, we want to encourage people when they make a 311 call to leave their callback information. Because that was something that we see, like vast majority of people don't leave callback. It's just all anonymous calls. So we'll go there, and then if we address the condition, we have no way of letting the person who made the call know that. Or if we get there where, we don't see it, we want to be able to reach out to the person who made the 311 complaint. So we want to encourage people to, if they can, leave contact information, especially with chronic calls. We're doing a big push department wide to call back the callers and let them know, what we're doing to address the condition. It might not be, a problem we're gonna be able to solve today, but maybe with something that joint operations with other agencies that we're gonna be putting together. So if we have point of contacts, we can keep the people informed. We were getting a lot of calls about a unlicensed vendor. It was a cannabis truck that was parked on 22nd Street and Park Avenue. It was parked there for months and months and months. We kept on getting a lot of 311 calls about that. I spoke to one of the residents who made a lot of 311s. Spoke to him about it. We ended up sending the Q team over. We issued some summonses. I spoke with the operators of the truck, and the next day the truck was gone and hasn't come back. It's been weeks. And I was in contact with the person who had made a lot of those 311 complaints. Let them know, if this truck comes back, keep us informed. And luckily haven't seen that come back again. But we always want to keep the public informed about what we're doing. And if we have chronic complaints, we want to be able to let the public know, okay, yeah, we are taking them seriously. We're putting together these joint operations. We're trying to address this.
Fantastic. Amazing. So I think we have two members of the public as well.
I can do it. You're on, yeah. Sorry, I have the co-host.
Got it.
You don't have to get a.
There we go.
Oh. sorry about that. Miriam, you wanna go ahead and unmute yourself, you can talk.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I'm almost a neighbor. I live on 21st, but a little ways down. I'm in precinct 10. And what I understand is that that's on the list for the next precinct to be included. I've had a lot. Can you hear me? Because I'm getting buzzing and I don't know
Yes.
if I'm
Yes.
audible. Okay. I'm just having trouble with the battery and I don't want to get
Yeah, we can hear you. No problem.
cut out. the meetings are not open to people with disabilities in precinct 10, including the block. Is that also true in precinct 13? Because I haven't been able to go and it's been very frustrating for me.
Okay, yeah, I would definitely, all the meetings should be accessible to everybody. So if you're having an issue, especially with the 10th precinct, I would reach out to them. If you could probably reach out to the community affairs officer in the 10th precinct, and they can figure out a way to make sure that everybody's able to access the meetings.
Well, the solution was for me to speak to a police officer once in a while by phone, and my experiences actually were that everything that I said was happening. There were robberies in the building, there are missing packages, there are signs in the building. The landlord even changed the buzzer system. He was very insistent that nothing was happening and that the empty packages were just people were collecting their stuff and leaving them. And it was a very disturbing experience because it was like finally understood the word gaslighting. Everything that I said he was denying happened. There were robberies in the building. There were police officers right in front, out of my door. That was denied. I spoke to the tenant who, was subject to robbery while she was sleeping, and they took her computer. She moved out of the building. So my experiences one-on-one, I don't think would have happened in a group meeting because, saying that nothing is being stolen, where, it's kind of common knowledge there's a lot of that throughout the city. It was a very difficult experience for me. And I did go to one meeting and I got sick. I got COVID. So I'm not likely to, it's a tiny space with very little ventilation and nobody was wearing masks. So,
Just for sake of time, just to reset your question, we're gonna tell us if we're correct. You want to be able to access the meetings, and Lieutenant, the advice there is to reach out to the community affairs office of the 10th precinct. Is that correct?
yes.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Miriam, did that answer the question?
Well, I don't know if what's going to happen next, because I think precinct 10 is next in line to be included. I'm actually writing a letter with the disability group about that to the commissioner about inaccessible meetings that don't cover people with disabilities, because that's going on for a couple of years, and personally it's been very frustrating and upsetting to me.
So what I would suggest that is you can also feel free to CC the board office, and maybe we can support the request to the 10th precinct and help you reach out as well.
Who do I call exactly?
If you're a member of this community board, Josh, do you have the email?
Yes, it's office at C5.
Wait, I
number
need
5.
paper and pencil, 1 second. Okay,
It's office at CB5, the number 5.
yeah.
.org.
Office at CB5, go on.
.org.
.org, okay, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Miriam, and definitely reach out.
Okay, Gail, you're next. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, Gail Fox here. I do live in the 13th precinct. You all can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. This is the first I've heard about the Q team, but I'm pleased to hear about it. And I am very concerned about quality of life. I was familiar with the NCO program. I've, been involved in a number of situations, and I'm not able to go to evening meetings, but I do make an effort to get the agenda post meeting of the community affairs. I'll get to my question quickly. Again, very concerned about all the issues you're covering. I have a subset issue. Those who do graffiti, and there's a construction site at 31 West 14, and while it is gated, there's access to one or more ladders inside, And there has been some graffiti put up very high. And in one case, by an apartment window, not on top of it, but close. So I do have the actual pictures of some of the graffiti. It's all the same. Maybe someone knows the tagger.
Hmm.
Maybe, we'll all be safe and they're just doing their art. But I do worry about the ladder access. And I'm just concerned in general. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the graffiti is definitely one of the quality of life issues that we're also focusing on. We have made a few graffiti arrests since the start of the pilot. Obviously, it's hard to catch somebody in the act, but we have been able to on several occasions since the quality of life team actually started. But I'll look into that 31 West 14th Street. Maybe we can talk to the property owner, see about removing that ladder.
Well, it's actually a demolished site. But the artwork is inside on the wood on the inside. It's also elsewhere. I could tell you addresses, but I'm not gonna take anyone's time now. But I'm just concerned. And
Yeah. No, that's definitely a quality of life issue, and when people see that there's graffiti on one storefront, then it kind of opens it up to people graffitiing other ones. So that's definitely one of the issues that the quality of life team is focused on.
Fantastic.
thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think there are any more members of the public, but Lieutenant, thank you so much for taking the time. We will definitely send a representative to the next precinct meeting, which I guess will happen in August. Is that correct?
I know July, yeah, they're not having it because they're doing the National Night Out coming up, but yeah, I think it's in August. So I'm gonna reach out to Detective Arlotta and find out, and I'll make sure you guys know about it.
Okay, amazing. So we'll definitely send a representative there, and then we'll likely be in touch. Maybe in a few months, we can also get an update as a committee on like the continued progress on the Q team pilot and then your expansion into other areas of the city.
Sure. Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anytime. Yeah, and if you have any follow-up questions, my email is Kenneth, KENNETH .Rice, RICE @nypd.org. So yeah, feel free to reach out. If there's any meetings that you guys are aware of, block association meetings, bid association meetings, we're more than happy to send either myself or one of the Q team sergeants or the officers to meet everybody and tell about all the great work they're doing.
Amazing. Thank
Thank
you
you so
again.
much. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.
too.
Night.
Okay.
Yep. Everybody covers all that. No, you're fine. So he can.
Just 2 weeks down.
I don't, me, I just.
Okay. Fantastic. So our second item on the agenda, any thoughts before we move on to the second item of the agenda? About the first speaker, anything that anyone wanted to share, especially some of our newer members? Go ahead.
Here's a question to the staff. If someone could let us know when Midtown North is rolled out?
Sure.
Are there any staff?
So this will be something that will, when we break everybody up into their subgroups, and this is the quality of life and the safety. This will be in that bucket. We're gonna be meeting individually with the 3 groups and along with Marisa and Josh and get everybody to be, we'll get there. Sorry about that.
Perfect segue.
Yeah, this is a good segue into, because then, yes, we're gonna start being able to provide information of the neighborhoods, the bids, and all the stuff that is compiled within each of those groups, so.
Thank you.
Yes.
So a good segue. So just a little bit of context about the committee. So prior to it being called the City Services and Quality of Life Committee, this was the BEX Committee, so Budget, Education, and City Services. The remit of the committee was to focus on city services and quality of life, but it was also the end-to-end annual budget process where we'd look across every agency in the city, identify what potential expenditures are necessary from organizations in the community, and present those to the city as our community's budget requests. We have since moved that budget process as of the last few months out of this committee and into its own task force, hence why we've renamed the committee Just City Services and Quality of Life. As a product of that budget process, every year there's a report that comes out of it called a Statement of District Needs. That statement has basically commentary for each specific topic of highest need in our community. And then as a board, we then rank each of those individual items on the basis of need. So consistently for the last 3 years, we've had, I think, 3 topics that have come out as our areas of highest need. The first is homelessness and mental health. The second is economic recovery / affordable housing. And the third is crime prevention. So the way we've decided to structure this committee moving forward is each of us will be split into these 3 broader buckets. The goal will be every single month. We have a break next month for the summer for all committees, but after that, every single month, we will rotate these topics. The idea is for each of those groups to function as almost a sub task force and bring items to the board that we can, or to this committee that we can talk on a rotating monthly basis. So as an example, maybe in August, we talk about homelessness. In September, we can talk about affordable housing. In October, we talk about crime prevention. It doesn't have to be so programmatic, but
It doesn't mean that's the only thing that will come up during that meeting, but that will specifically be set aside to make sure we're addressing that specific subcommittee's topics.
exactly, where we're making it a priority for the committee and for the community. In addition to that, in the spirit of how this committee has traditionally been run, all of the kind of topics that don't sit cleanly within any particular committee have historically come to VEX and will stay in the City Services and Quality of Life Committee. So that can be areas that any individual board member here is passionate about, whether like, for example, Tristan and Julie are passionate about sustainability, or I'm passionate about technology. I know I talked to Kevin, he was pretty passionate about scaffoldings. And so any item like that that we want to bring to this committee, we are able to, and we can do that on any monthly basis. So it's important that in this discussion and an ongoing basis that you call out these areas so that you can effectively be like a mini task force lead for this topic, and then bring these topics to committee that we can discuss together.
And what we're gonna, and for those who don't know me, sorry, I'm Tiffany Revis, I'm the vice chair. That's why I'm talking a lot too. What we're gonna do in the next couple weeks is we're gonna put everybody into groups tonight if we can, hopefully. But we're going to be meeting with Marisa and Josh, Mohit and I with that group, and Marisa and Josh with each of the 3 groups these next couple of weeks, because we have this big span where we don't have a meeting again until August. But we need to start bringing forth everything on our agendas, but we also all need to get, familiar with what neighborhoods are in that, what we're thinking of, what bids are in that, what all the precincts, and this is even things that those of us been on board for a few years still don't even know. That's why we're trying to make this so organized, so there's so much more efficiency in what we're doing. And so, again, you're gonna really understand what's going on a little bit as we go through this process. So we don't have all the answers for you tonight. It's more of what are you interested in, passionate about, your reason for wanting to be a part of the community board, and that's the group that we want to put you in, so then we can start going and moving forward with making those things better for our community.
Fantastic. Any questions before we start this exercise?
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify, especially for the new folks, because there's overlap. So when we say affordable housing here, just to be clear,
Yes.
we're not talking about the creation of that land use consideration.
Yes.
This is about sort of access to and services around.
So we'll say through.
Access to and services around.
Affordable housing.
Like subsidies.
Correct. We're just trying to keep a clean line between our committees. And it's land use that, sort of focuses on the creation or sustainment of affordable housing.
An example of this that we brought to committee last month is a discussion on the rent guidelines board. Right, correct, but,
Yeah.
Okay,
Correct,
like,
that's a good example.
Yeah,
so this is more
exactly.
policy related.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And also services that would help people access, as opposed to inventory.
Can you, no, go ahead, yeah.
Of the types of things that we prioritize to bring to committee
within affordable housing or?
within any of them, or is that?
Oh, so I think the buckets are just very large,
Mhm.
so we can really shape how we think. What is like the highest, most priority item within these buckets? Historically, like in homelessness and mental health, we've really focused more on addressing the root causes of homelessness, so. We've had discussions with speakers from different mental health organizations. We did an entire session last year on the involuntary a commitment legislation that was being passed by Mayor Adams, which we thought were priority items at the time. There was also a recent center that we had that addressed homelessness on streets and creating like a dashboard to be able to track that and understand why people were homeless in these areas. So it really depends on the individuals in this group that will create to think about like what is the highest priority that could best address. But there's a inherent flexibility that you can decide. Unless there's also like, let's say, very controversial legislation that happens that's announced in like the New York Times or New York Post or whatever, then talk about that as well.
It also doesn't have to be legislation or policy based, like there's, we talked about clubhouses.
Yeah,
Like
Absolutely.
clubhouses, they need support, they need funding,
Food pantries, like,
right,
you
like
know,
there's, like.
anything that's our community, it's just, this isn't, not everything's political, this is about our community.
Do you think you could flesh out the 3 buckets and what each would capture? Cause like what would fall under, I mean, seems like homelessness and housing kind of go together, but that's a separate bucket. And what does scaffolding fall under? What does local law 97 fall under? I'm very interested in that.
is that the scaffolding repair law?
No, that's actually the climate, that's related to climate. What would that fall under? Would
Okay.
that be?
So these we can all create as like special areas. So one of the other things I like to do is just capture things like this that you might be passionate about or anyone might be interested. So that we can keep track of these items and we can add them onto agendas moving forward. But we're still at least focused on one of these 3 buckets for every meeting. And then if we want to talk about local law 97 in August, we can.
Okay.
Or if Kevin wants to bring like shed to sheds and we talk about scaffoldings, we can do that. And so we have like this material to then move forward with on a consistent basis.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Maybe more of a tactical question, so maybe we'll get to it, but is there some sort of records, like work to date, or things we've done in the past?
So the
In
question.
each of these
Mhm.
categories?
So we will share, we compiled, as of like March, a list of all of the agenda items we've done for the last 3 years. And then we bucketed them, so we'll share that out after this meeting, so everyone has an idea of like the types of things we've talked about, like what category they fall into. That's probably the best resource for that. Marisa can also share probably like a bulk resolution packet list. Is Josh here?
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
Which is just, and for new members, it might be helpful to like read through or skim through some of these things or put into ChatGPT and summarize. So that you have an idea of like the types of resolutions that have been passed.
You can also go on our website,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
an Airtable of all of our resolutions and you can search by committee. So you can actually look at
You can look
everything
at every month
Facts.
of resolutions you've done.
at the time for, here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Anything else before we start? So we're gonna do this in a very simple way. We can just
Very simple.
volunteer.
Yeah.
I would urge people, and not everyone is here. I think we're missing 5 or 6 people. But we'll figure that
Do
out
that,
later.
but
I would urge to like do some level of even split. So let's not have like everybody in one category. So we'll
I think
just,
we do 5, there's 18 minus you and me, because we, so there's 16.
so like 6, 6, 6.
So 5, 5, 6.
Okay, yeah.
We do 5, 5, 6.
So starting with the first one, homelessness, mental health. We could just do a raise of hands. Is there anyone that's very interested in this topic? So Melissa,
Can I put my hands up on all 3 of them?
Oh yeah, she's like, I don't know which one.
I could get a last pick.
sure.
You're okay being put wherever.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
I'm okay.
okay, no,
Okay.
fair, got it.
So we have one for homelessness, mental health. Okay.
Okay,
Is that, Julie?
Oh, Julie,
as well?
yay, hi Julie. I know you're there, Julie.
Okay, so Tristan, it's a powerhouse team right now.
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on?
I gotta type right now, sorry. Oh. So jealous.
And then, okay, so we have four, and then, okay, so let's do economic recovery, affordable housing, or the services around affordable housing. Okay, one, so, I didn't say her name. It's Gabby, okay, so Gabby.
We can only be on one.
Yes.
Okay.
But then you can have your side issue, like,
Within
like,
that.
you know, we talked about, like, I have a side issue that I'm gonna propose, but.
So the side issue is not this?
Like discussions, these are,
Right.
that you're still gonna be a part of those discussions, this is our committee, it doesn't mean that you aren't gonna have to say you're just not working directly on that perhaps.
And we're.
I would like to be on homelessness and
Okay.
mental health if I
Okay.
had to choose one of
Okay.
those three.
So homelessness,
I don't have the knowledge, but I have the interest to learn.
okay, that's all I think that's needed. Anyone else for economic recovery, affordable housing, services?
I'll do that.
Okay,
This is last week.
public safety.
Public safety,
Just stuff like what we,
Mhm.
the presentation we heard today. Economic recovery, so Robert, economic recovery. Hey, you want to vote?
Still trying to.
Who hasn't selected yet? It's, I think it's just.
Yeah.
just
No,
well,
Andrea.
you and Andrea in the room.
Other things.
No, but you can also do economic, because we have 5 people that are missing from the meeting
Yeah.
today, so they can all be public safety as well.
There-
Well, David
That's
definitely.
what they
fell.
get for not.
So it's,
Sure, I
actually,
know.
I like the public. I
That's
like
right,
public
Kevin.
safety too. I mean, I'm
You
medical, so
choose
I'm.
whatever,
Public safety.
public
Okay,
safety, okay. And then Andrea, which, economic recovery or public safety?
Tough
one. Economic, okay.
Okay, so the rest we'll just fill out.
Yeah.
With the remaining members. So in practice, how this likely works is that on a monthly basis, we'll try to rotate these topics. So we'll send out like a more formal calendar, but so we understand maybe like we'll start off with homelessness, we'll have that in September, then follow with the next issue in October, the next issue in November. What I would urge is that everyone kind of stays up to date with like, you know, programs in the community, what's going on in the news, just so that we haven't, when we come to the topic, typically like 2 to 3 weeks in advance of the committee meeting, we like to have like an agenda that covers some of these issues. And so the people within the subgroup will be responsible for kind of creating that agenda within this specific topic. And then Tiffany and I will be kind of like cross-functional across all 3 of these.
And I'll give Marisa and Josh time to get the speakers and the presenters and things like that. So we want to, you know, have things planned ahead of time and organized, so we have a very productive meeting with that, so.
And that's a really good point. So if there's any speakers or presenters you'd like to bring, Marisa and Josh and like the general board can help bring them. So we've had like a number of different speakers over the past few years from like NGOs, from governmental organizations, from like public officials that have come and talked to us as a committee and as a board. So that is also a possible method for someone to present.
Okay.
So I understand the necessity and the benefit to having speakers and such. I think it's great, because we all need to learn. But, is there another step that happens? Because what I don't want to participate in is just going to meetings to hear people talk, because I don't care. So like, I want to do something.
Yeah,
So,
typically
so
what
like,
we do-
where does that all lead to?
So I think there's like 2 parts of it. So part of it is like becoming educated on the topic.
Yeah.
And so unless you're an expert on the topic,
Right,
I think
which I'm
there's value in hearing experts on the topic speak to you about it. The second part of it is coming to a resolution on the topic. So typically I will have an action item where we either, let's say there's a piece of legislation, we'll write a set letter of support that goes to the governor or the mayor saying that we support this specific piece of legislation. So as an example, 2 months ago, we heard a senator from Upper Manhattan came and talked to us about new legislation he was proposing around creating statistical like measurement of homelessness and how he can create a database to improve it.
Got
We
it.
then debated that legislation in committee, wrote a letter of support and then sent that to the governor and to the state assembly
So
members.
there's an action.
Yeah, so
Okay,
just like.
Yeah.
got it. As long as that's what we're doing,
No,
that sounds awesome.
A lot of, we don't do as many resolutions because
Yep.
they don't come to us to say, can we pass this? It's
Yeah.
more letter of support and, that
Okay,
is very.
I got it.
beneficial,
I
yeah.
got it.
And
That's
those
good.
are voting, so those require.
And it's
are
another,
voting.
another good point you bring up, Kevin, because I think this committee is very different than every other committee in that we don't have, as Tiffany's saying, anything to approve. Right, like, if you go to transportation, you have like a bus stop you can approve, or in like land use or licensing, there's a specific thing that you have to say yes or no to. For us, it's like what we want to talk about and what we want to bring to the attention of whoever. So that's kind of up to us to be proactive in that.
Got it.
So
Thank you.
so let me just try to, so I'm gonna work with Marisa to make, these three, they'll be Zoom, it'll be with Mohit, myself, Marisa, Josh, and then whoever's on each committee at each one of these Zooms, and we'll just do it like an after work thing. And we're going to do it within the next 3 weeks. For Marisa, she said that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday evenings are best for her. Of course, it's gonna be, everybody's gonna have scheduling conflicts of some sort, but, is there specific time that really will disrupt anybody here that's in this room right now?
For what specific?
For the meetings that we're gonna now meet with Marisa, remember like the
Yeah, yeah.
3 buckets, we're gonna, just to get things started.
Yeah,
We're making that meeting with Marisa, so I just wanted to see if there was anything that you need me to absolutely not, a day to not, absolutely not do.
If not, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's it.
Okay,
This is over the next 3 weeks.
Yeah,
if not, we can also send out like a Calendly link.
Well, not
Yeah,
next week.
let's
'cause
do
we have
that.
board. That's right.
what's that?
I assume not next week. We have board.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Sorry, it won't be next week, it'll just be, it'll be between the end, by the end of the month.
Oh, like the week of the 21st or the week of the 28th?
Yes.
Yeah.
I see.
And actually, it's probably gonna be the week of the 21st.
Let's just get Marissa's
Because-
times and then send those
No,
out.
yeah, she already told, yeah, she told me, I talked to her before.
21st, 22nd, 23rd.
I think, yeah,
Okay.
I think we might have to do all those. Cause our full board is this, no, our full board is this week, we could do this week too. Okay, we'll get back to you, but it'll be, yours will be on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, either 14th, 15th, 16th, 21, 22, 23, and those blocks.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so we'll get back to you guys and all that, and then everything will become a lot more clear. I mean, Marisa's even teaching the two of us a lot more now that we can really organize everything and structure it better. We're gonna have a lot more purpose on this committee and what we can provide for the community. Okay,
Fantastic. Okay, so second item is like the special interest items. So we have 4 right now. You're on.
I have
has one. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, what's the fourth? I can only
Oh, so-
send ready.
So we have sustainability, which I have Tristan and Julie mapped to right now.
Yeah.
Can you please define that?
So it's very broad. So how would you define sustainability, Tristan, the sustainability you're interested in?
I know a lot of the topics that have come up in the past had to do with development, so separate from the zoning text, so like programs or subsidies that could decrease like the carbon associated.
Okay,
with
we're gonna need that kind of system.
Yeah,
Okay, got it.
or it could be
Okay.
like water or
I got
like efficiency of services.
So, but broad by intention so that we can cover any topic within these areas. There's technology. There's the Midtown South Precinct meeting. So this is like a quite specific item.
Yeah.
Every month on the third Tuesday, as the lieutenant was saying, there is a Midtown South Precinct meeting, which they share community stats around crime, stuff like that.
and I was on the meeting this month too. This is the first time any of us have ever, and I did the meeting this month too. And it was, I mean, it was helpful and it's in the Zoom, it's easy. So, yeah, that's what.
Can we be on more than one of these?
You can do as many as you
Okay.
want.
I feel like someone on the public safety bucket should take that one.
Yeah, that should be,
Yeah,
yeah.
so-
So sustainability is also climate, right?
Yeah.
It is also climate. Would
Um,
you like
Sounds
to be
like
on that
you
one?
only wants to be on
I
that,
would
yeah.
like to be on sustainability, Midtown South, because I live there, and scaffolding, so I have a real interest in the sheds.
Yeah.
I love
And
it.
so does Kevin as well, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
All right.
It's getting better.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready to go to work. Let's go, let's do it.
Okay, you're on, what's the one that? you're
So
talking about?
there's a lot happening now that we need to, I think we need to keep apprised of on sanitation. So there's the containerization stuff, there's composting, there's actually a lot that's, you know, sort of. I think there's a lot of interesting things happening, so I think,
So there was a city, I took this meeting last week too, there was this huge city council meeting on containerization
yeah.
and
we-
all the programs. It was
And there's, I'm sorry.
in depth and long and amazing.
Yeah.
If we can ever pull it off.
Yeah.
And it is a big problem.
Yeah.
that
So
we have.
how all of the laws and regulations, it's my understanding like are in place. There is not yet understanding of how we get there.
Uh-huh,
And I don't know that there's
and
that.
get there and enforcement and.
Right, so I don't, you know, what is a community board's role in that? I don't know.
We don't know.
But I'm interested in finding out, because I think it's
And seeing if we have a. law.
exceptionally important, and that's just on the residential side. Now, obviously, our district is
Yeah.
mostly not residential. And that's a whole
But
different
the
thing.
small businesses, they talked about that too, the
Correct.
small businesses, 1 to 9 people, the requirements for that, so.
And we've had sanitation a number of times. They've tried to sell us their garbage cans as well, multiple
Yeah.
times.
Mhm.
So maybe you're on, we can work with sanitation.
Yeah,
plus
I mean,
probably
it's a
like-
huge thing.
Plus
It's
like
a huge
agencies
thing,
and,
yeah.
We need to
okay.
figure out what our part of it is, but I think it's something we really need to be on top
And the
of.
composting doesn't seem to be happening.
Well, it is, and then it's not, and it's
Yeah.
right, so.
Okay, awesome. Sanitation. Anything else? And this, we can always add to this in the future.
Oh, yeah, this is just,
But just so that we have an
Brainstorm.
intro set to capture. Go
This
ahead.
isn't like content specific, but if there's anyone who wants like open data or wants to jump into reports, I'm happy to go in and like do data dives.
Amazing.
It's great.
Yeah.
We'll add you to technology.
mhm.
Tristan actually spearheaded a lot of our data stuff, set the foundation for data stuff.
There's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah.
I'll see if Renee is the one who pointed me to all this stuff,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'll see if I can dig up like an email from her. That love the resources.
Okay, amazing. Any other topics of interest? Sure.
Yeah, sure.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Is that your expertise? Is like, the data dive stuff, like, that's what you love it, but you also like deal with it all the time, or I'm just curious.
I have a master's in like,
Awesome, okay, yeah, no, I was just curious, like, 'cause,
We're
yeah,
putting
that
ourselves
sounds great.
on these ones, right? We're
haven't done it in a while.
Yeah, no, it's great.
I think it won't be as complex.
Cause I was thinking about my own thing, and I was like, we could be looking at all those lists.
But
The only one I thought about that, because I'm part of the economic recovery subcommittee, maybe food insecurity. Because I noticed in a lot of other communities, they have food pantries.
So that is something big that we started doing, and we kind of put that more into. Like the homelessness and mental health.
we can bring it up.
But we, I mean, it can be anyone, but it is very needed. We only have a few, because we really started to dive into that like early this year, and I was surprised at what there was and wasn't, like what there is that we don't know and what there truly isn't. So that's a very good one.
It's all tied against food insecurity.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is a very excellent.
I'm interested in that one too.
Other neighbors that find is that relate to the way a ton of stuff to the seniors and the handicapped.
Yeah.
Students.
And the big beautiful bill is cutting SNAP even more.
Isn't that terrible? It's just-
I just added mental health, because I'm not, that's what.
That'll be part of our big bucket, most likely.
That's probably big bucket, but I'll just kind of.
Anything else of interest? We'd always add this in the future. Julie, anything?
Sanitation too, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Julie?
Julie, we miss you.
Gotta put bathrooms in.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yes, thank you, guys.
Oh, I'm putting on, sorry. I'm putting Julie on this right now. Taking my mental health.
Okay, awesome. So if nothing else, this will be like our beginning set of information. We'll send this out as like a recap email, either probably tomorrow. And then feel free to add to this as needed. We'll group the rest of the folks who didn't make the meeting today as part of these groups, and then starting September, which will be our next meeting, we will probably start with homelessness as our first topic. Cool. Go ahead.
I have a question. I know back in the day,
For August, not,
oh, sorry, unrelated to this, I know like we used to have the independent budget office come in and give us updates on like the pension, unfunded obligations. I know now we're no longer formally overseeing the budget. Do you know if Kim's task force is just solely focusing on the pure role of committee boards playing the budget process and that's like kind of disappearing? Or do you think like our committee would still play a role in that if you consider like pensions to be like a service?
What Marissa told me about like doing the task force too is making sure there is at least, I mean, every committee, that there should be somebody from every committee that's on the task force so we can still try to incorporate. You know, have like a liaison basically between each committee.
But specifically for
Oh, sorry, maybe, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe there's-
I don't think we'll bring them most likely. I think it will be within the task force. We can have them come anyway as a state of the budget kind of situation related to quality of life and services, which I think is a fair argument to make. I just don't know if we can particularly action it. Do you have an opinion either way?
No, it's just always interesting, like
Yeah.
a lot of,
Well, if
when
we
you
dig on the
dig
budget
into-
task force.
yes, yeah. Well, the question is like, would the budget task force even cover that? Because that's not part of our role in the budget
Yeah.
process.
So maybe it's a good point. Maybe our contribution to the budget process now can be listening to this. Listening effectively to the office, the budget office, and then synthesizing that and playing like a facilitation type role. Not a bad idea. I'm just gonna tag Tristan for that. While I can. Okay, perfect. I'll drop it. Amazing. So if nothing else, then I think our plan is set. We'll follow up with an email afterwards. Any last questions before we close? Okay.
What is the next meeting? Do you have an actual date?
Yeah, it's on the CB5 meeting calendar.
Oh,
It's
yes.
gonna be in August, not September. Sorry, I misspoke. Let me
It's
just find it for
the
you now.
29th. Oh, no, it's 27th.
I believe they're
It's
typically
September
always.
second, the next PAX meeting is, or the next CSQ.
Oh,
Yeah, the September 2nd, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so nothing in August.
Yeah.
We do like a summer break and it'll be part of the August cycle, I think. But Bex is, CSQL will always be last in that cycle. So I think we're like the last or one of the last meetings before.
Before.
September
exactly.
cycle.
Yeah.
Yes, it's September.
I don't know what that means, but I'm.
That means the board meeting, we talk about our cycles by when the board meeting is. So even if the meeting were technically in August, it would still be the quote September meeting because it's the September. full.
I see. Thank you.
Okay,
Right.
awesome.
Awesome.
Thank
Thanks,
you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Question for you. So we need to have, we have two people that haven't. That are been on the committee. That are two.
Journey.
Shapiro and,
That's it.
and.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, it was so
Oh,
long.
one of them
Yeah.
was going away.
Right.
No, no.
What about-
No, not that long.
Okay.
No, no,
Yeah.
on the bucket, on the bucket.
Where did you go?
In India.
Wow.
I know.
It's kind of like a family.
Well, he is, but we're not gonna.
With my.
Did we-
So nice.
Yeah, it was very special. My kids, two of my kids were with me.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Did you, hike?
It was very much offline, so it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame.
You guys.
But, yeah.
Did you just get back?
Yeah, I got back Sunday night.
Oh, wow,
Night.
so good.
You don't look that I got on.
That would not be here.
Any?
I put, oh, well, the rest of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So really want to end the event. Thank you. I put Morris, Alex, Annie, because that's what's left.
Thank you all.
Yes, thank you. Very fun.
Andrew, how are you?
Which one do you think needs 6 people? Cover public.
No,
Oh,
that's the other
Thank you, guys.
Michael K. Bear.
Who do you think? needs-
The old
Which
manager
topic do you
support.
think needs a 6th person?
Yeah, that's the other Michael. Yeah, still of that.
Just put them in.
Get the free toys or your money back. Yeah. Hey, Bear.
That's a new one, right?
Yeah. Okay, tell me your schedule to do these meetings. I told Marisa asked me, she's like, can we try to plan them? So I said, yeah, I'll talk to you before we.
Um.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Shoot, I could have